Do you waste tons of time staring at your iPad screen trying to figure out what colors to use for your tattoo designs? It's probably because you're very similar to me when I first started out and you know very little about color theory and you're just kind of winging it. The truth is, when you understand how to use what's called a triadic color harmony, you can pick the tattoos for literally any tattoo design within 2 minutes and it works every single time. Believe me when I say this, even knowing just a very small amount about color theory can dramatically improve the quality of your work overnight and saves you a ton of frustration when it comes to creating world-class tattoo designs. So with that in mind, let's get straight into it. Hey guys, a quick heads up before you watch this video. So this video talks about digital color theory, which looks awesome on your iPad, but doesn't always work the same on skin. Digital color theory uses red, green, and blue as its primaries because it's based on light. Traditional color theory, on the other hand, uses red, yellow, and blue because it's based on pigments. That means that the color wheel are laid out completely differently, so the color harmonies on your screen will look completely different when they're tattooed. On skin, pigments mix differently and skin tones change how colors show up. So the combos might look great digitally, but might clash or get muddy in a tattoo. So to make the concepts from this video work for tattooing, grab a traditional color wheel like the one you see below and pick your color harmonies from that instead of the color wheel that's native in Procreate so that you can adjust the palette for skin. Enjoy the video and keep these principles in mind when picking out colors for your tattoo designs. We just got this design on my iPad here. It's like just a cool neo-trad piece that I put together and we want to pick the colors, right? So the way when we're using a triadic color harmony, it's going to involve 3 main colors. Now, the first step is we've just got to choose the main color or a color that we absolutely know has to be inside of the piece, which will be the dominant color. When you open up the color wheel on your iPad, you're gonna have a bunch of options down the bottom of the screen. You've got disc, you've got classic, you've got harmony, value, and palettes. So we're gonna go over to harmony, all right? Now, this is a color palette that I built earlier, but I'll just show you how to rebuild it really quickly. So just go create new palette. Okay, looks like that's already selected. Yeah, cool. So we know that we've got yellow. So when I go over to color harmony and I've got the yellow selected, you'll see that it's also selected 2 other colors. It's got this like kind of pinkish color and then this like aqua kind of turquoise color, right? Whenever I move the color around, because it's a triadic harmony, it will always form a triangle on the color wheel. So whatever color I choose, it will automatically pick 2 colors that are going to complement that color and look visually appealing when you use them in a design, right? So because I'm using this specific yellow, it's also picked out these other 2 colors which are going to work well with it. So what I want to do is I want to get those 3 colors in my palette. So we just press on each one of them. Now, boom, that's going to be the basis that forms my color palette, okay? So then what we want to do is once we've picked out the color scheme that we're going to use, if you try and use these colors to color this entire piece, it's going to look whack, all right? Having like a yellow, a pink, and a turquoise, you know, there's nothing for the skin tone. It's just going to look terrible, okay? But the good news is we can manipulate these 3 colors that we've just chosen and we can adjust the saturation and we can adjust the value, which opens up a whole lot of new colors that we can use, which is still going to complement well together. So what we have to do then is once we've got these 3 colors is we go over to classic. And then what we can do is we can adjust the saturation. And the saturation just makes the color either more vibrant or more gray. So if you want to do something that's super neo-trad, typically you'll go down towards the gray. If you want to do something real new school, bright and vibrant, you know, kind of girly, that stuff is like super, super vibrant, okay? So you can move the saturation across and then you've got the value. You can make it a dark color or you can make it a light color. When you make it dark, it's just got more black in it. When you make it light, it's got more light in it, okay? Now, what you can't change is the hue. You see at the top when I change the hue and then it changes all these colors. If I do that, and then I try and add in extra colors, it's gonna break the harmony. It's gonna look busted, which we absolutely don't wanna do, okay? So we wanna pick the color, the yellow that we've just used. And what we wanna do now is create some variations of this color by manipulating the saturation and the value. Okay, so I like to do a lot of neo-trad stuff. So I'm gonna put this saturation down to say 40%. So what I'm gonna do at that point is then I'm gonna get my darks, my mid-tones, and my light tones. So I'm gonna put all that value all the way down towards the far left. Now, if you look at the color history here, there's all these squares. There's 10 squares here, so you can use them as a bit of a guide for when you're selecting your values and your saturation. Okay, so think of them as like 10% each. So I'm gonna have this at 30% darkness, okay? And that's going to give me like a dark yellow, and then I'm gonna move it up by 3, which is going to give me a mid-tone. And then I'm gonna move it up another 3, which is going to give me a light tone. And then I'm gonna move it a little bit more, which is gonna give me an even lighter tone. And I'm gonna do the same thing with all of my colors that I've got here. So I go down to 30% value, I move this down to 40% saturation. So we've got a little bit of vibrancy, but not a whole lot. It's got a lot of all that color taken out of it. And then we have my dark purple. Again, move it up 3, 1, 2, 3. Mid purple, 1, 2, 3. Light purple, and then super light purple. Okay, same thing with my aqua / turquoisey color. Move the saturation down to 40%. Darkness, I'm gonna have it at 20. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have a medium and then a super light tone just there. Now, this is a good start. I've got a bunch of variation of a few different colors that I can use throughout this piece. But again, it's still not enough, okay? I'm gonna need, different colors for the skin tones. I'm gonna need to be able to do the hair. These 3 colors are not gonna cut it. So the beautiful part here is that you can actually add in your neutrals. Neutral colors, so browns and grays, blacks, whites. Because they're not on the color wheel, they don't break the color harmony. In reality, brown is just like a desaturated, darkened kind of orange. When we add those in, that's going to give us enough of a palette without breaking the harmony to do this piece that we're doing right now. So to pick a brown, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change the hue. I want to go all the way over to orange, and I want to move this slider to give me like a nice dark brown. Cool. And then what I want to do is just add lighter and lighter versions of that, but I also want to decrease the saturation a little bit by a little bit. I can move the saturation, I can move the value anywhere that I want. And as long as I keep that hue the same, it's still going to look good, and it's not going to break the color harmony, okay? Getting more and more desaturated as it goes. And then give me a super light one just next to that. So cool, that's my skin tones. If you pick the wrong skin tones, you don't quite get the orange right and it becomes too saturated. I'll show you a tip at the end of the video that can allow you to play with the saturation and the vibrancy really, really easily without having to redo the entire piece. But for now, got our skin tones. We also want to have a black in there as well. When I'm doing my grays in a piece, I typically just use black, and when I want to lighten it up, I just lower the opacity. It's a lot easier to render on the iPad. It's a lot faster as well. Okay, so now they've picked out our colors, right? We've got enough to render this piece. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna quickly color this, and then we're gonna come back to it. I'm gonna show you as well how to easily manipulate different tones and values for different colors without having to redo them. Before I do that though, let me know in the comments, guys, what colors do you typically prefer to use in your tattoos? Do you more prefer like the desaturated, neo-trad kind of dark stuff, or do you prefer more the more vibrant, new school kind of vibe? Just let me know down in the comments that I want to do more color tutorials in future. I know what to focus on to make the most valuable videos that I can for you guys. Okay, so here's the piece when it's fully colored. I added a couple more pieces into the palette. You can see I've got the palette down here, as well as the one up here. There's a few extra colors in this one down here, or a few extra variations of different tones. And I ended up going with a bit of a different brown, but you can still see like it's built off that same turquoise, purple and yellow, turquoise, purple, yellow. It's just a few more variations of each color. Now that I've rendered the piece, right, you can see that it looks really, really good. All the colors go well together because it follows that color harmony. It's cohesive. All right, that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you'll pick a brown that just absolutely sucks, which is totally fine. You don't actually have to redo the entire drawing. What you can actually do is add a layer of black, gray, and white over each section of the tattoo, and then you adjust the opacity. And then what that will do is it'll allow you to manipulate the value and the saturation without having to redo that entire section on the design. So I'll just show you how that works really quick. I've got my white, my black, and my gray. If I see that, this design, it's too bright, it's too vibrant, I want to make it like more kind of desaturated. So I just hit the gray layer, I go full transparency, and all I did with this, I just used the selection tool, hit the parts that I wanted to color over, and then I changed the opacity. And as the gray lightens up, I can see the skin tone underneath, but it has the color sucked out of it. It makes it more and more closer to gray the higher the opacity is. So if I want to make the color a bit more dull, I just have to add more gray to it. It's not all you can do. Now you can adjust the value, right? So if I want to make it brighter, I activate the white layer on top. I hit the opacity on that. If I turn it up full opacity, the entire drawing goes white. But when I turn it down, Again, it brightens everything up very, very slowly without changing the hue. That's the most important thing. You can manipulate the saturation and the value, but you can't change the hue, because if you do that, it'll break the color harmony. So if I want it to be nice and pale, like a real kind of dead, evil sort of neo-trad look, I can really lighten up that skin tone. Or if I figure that it's too light and I want to make it a bit more dark, then I just activate the black layer, again, hit the opacity, full opacity, it turns completely black, but as I turn it down, it darkens that color without changing the hue. So you can see by doing this, it's very easy to get the color that you're looking for without having to redo the actual design. Super, super useful and saves you a ton of time if you get the hue just a little bit off when you do skin tones or anything else, right? Now, if you want to take your color tattoos to the next level, this is just scratching the surface of what's possible when it comes to color theory. This is something that we go a lot more in depth with our students. So if you want to learn how to tattoo within the next 90 days so that you can start making an income from tattooing and make it your full-time career, hit the link in the description. Okay, so now that you know how to use triadic color schemes to help you choose the palette for any tattoo design that you're doing, it's important to remember that putting colors on an iPad is very different to putting colors in someone's skin. So if you're struggling with doing color tattoos, maybe the colors aren't blending, the colors falling out, or the skin just looks like minced meat after you're finished with the tattoo, then you definitely want to check out our video on color blending. I'll put it up on the screen so you can go check it out and get your colors looking smooth as fuck. That's all for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.